Hello, everyone. This is the CCCX live show.
Good morning. Good evening.
I'm Sizzle. We got Leigh Chalker, we got Dustin Brunell, and our guest SK.
Hey, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, good, man. How is everyone today? Going well? Living the dream?
Living the dream.
It's Sunday, so hot cup of coffee, and I'm all good to go.
Man, no, it's been a really proactive day for me, so I'm excited about it. You know, my day is coming to an end, so the end of my day, we just decided that we would get snow. So I'm kind of.
Oh wow.
Oh look, my daughter has wanted to see snow for the last 2 years, and with everything that's happened in the world, we couldn't take her. So I'm hoping this the year I can take her to build a snowman.
There you go.
The first time.
Awesome. Yeah, you can have it, dude. You can have all the
I would trade you.
Trust me.
Where I come from, man, we build sandmen.
That's what I'm
There's no snow for thousands of kilometers around here.
Yeah.
So, closer you get to that's like a documentary.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could do without it. So definitely could do
I suppose we want what we don't have, like.
Yeah,
we'll trade you the sunshine. We want snow here.
For sure. I mean, I've lived near the water all my life. You know, I've lived in Hawaii, I've lived in St. Thomas, I've lived in Florida, I've lived in Virginia Beach. This is very different for me. So, I mean, I've been here almost 2 years now, but it's still like snow. Nope. But whatever. I get to be a hermit here though, so I'm okay with that.
Now, guys, I'll just interrupt for a tick for you guys and everyone that's watching. So we're back for the first show of the Cross Country ComX, the transcontinental ComX wing with Dustin and Shane and myself, guest SK. Got a few different things happening on the show, so I'll just get them out of the way, and then if Shane doesn't mind me jumping in here, and then I guess we can get into. Questioning SK about what he's been up to and what he's doing. So across the bottom of the screen, you'll see an email site, cccxlive@gmail.com. Now, that is for people to reach out, ask comments and stuff, but it is also primarily because we're trying something a bit different this year. Today, I am going to give away to the lucky person that enters this little draw 3 issues, issue 1, 2, and 3 of Battle for Bustle. I have actually found one last copy of the original cover, so that is the original cover that is now out of print. I think there may be a couple left available in the ComX shop, and other than that, that's all over Red Rover. So there's issue 1, issue 2, and issue 3. Now, in order for you to go into, I guess, the draw, we're doing something else this year as well, that each month I'm going to do a drawing based on a theme that we've decided on. This month's theme is the classic Uncanny X-Men run of when they were in Outback Australia. So it can be any character, it can be a group shot, it can be whatever you choose. You have to jot who you are, your name, your thoughts, suggestions, and who you'd like to see me draw into that email that's running across the bottom of your screen. I will have that drawn up by next week, and then that will basically be up for bid. So if anyone wishes to bid on it, buy it, etc., go right ahead, and those proceeds will go to ComX, for the community and keeping these things active and going. And basically, the person who Dustin, myself, and Shane chooses who I've got to the character or scene from that, classic X-Men run that I have to draw, we will choose, and they win the 3 issues of Battle for Bustle. So I will send them to you as long as you get postal addresses to us, and we will contact you. So that's the new, basically the, what we're going to do. So fire in there on what you want to see me draw, whether it's Havoc, Colossus, Wolverine, the team, the Reavers, anything like that, Gateway, all those classic characters, man. So I'm open to everything, and we'll see how we go. But other than that, I would love to say hello to my mate Dustin down there, who I haven't seen for a good 6 months, but talk to most days. And congratulations on Ethereal Comics, mate, doing well with your bloody IPs are just firing everywhere. Every time I talk to you, you seem to have a new thing coming up every week.
Man, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Mate, congratulations. You're going bloody hard, mate. And
it's cool, man. You guys are doing a lot too. I pay attention to everything you guys have got going on. So it's awesome to see, I'm a huge B4B fan. So if you guys are really in luck to get a hold of a set of B4B, I'm like, that's a really cool book, man. I would love to see more folks around the world get to read that story because it's so original. See, like, I'm real big on originality. Like, I'm real big on it. Like, I refused, and I used the Sentry because he's the easiest example in the world to use. I don't read anything that somebody bummed from somebody else. It's just not, I don't find it interesting. You know what I mean? You can slap a different color palette on Superman and say that he's got agoraphobia and he's a different character. It's the same dude. You know what I mean? It's the same guy, same type of powers, whole nine. I'm not going to read the Sentry. You know what I mean? So when, Leigh was talking about the Battle for Bustle, I was just like, holy shit. This is so cool because it's so very original. It's so very different. And I'm very grateful to be here. I love hanging out with these guys. So good to see Sir Sizzle again and Leigh. And then, we talked to, ES is on my team. So I talk to ES all the time. But it's always, really cool to see him live, guys, because, pay attention to shows with this guy on it because he's super intelligent. Like, out of this world shenanigans with this guy. So he can always teach you things about lettering. He's got cool concepts. Pay attention. And he puts out good books, too. You know what I mean? Not just working with us. He puts out his own good books, and it's very exciting. He's also got a really cool fantasy book going on right now, guys. So I want to check that out. I'm sure we'll pop that link in here at some point in time or another. But yeah, mad hyped. We've got 4 days left on BGD issue 2. Smashing all our own goals on that one. So we're really excited about it. I think we're up. We've got like 20 more backers than we had on the previous issue so far.
Oh, nice.
The 4 days left. And we're up like 20% in sales almost on that book. So really excited about it. And also in that book as well is my first foray into like police drama, which is If It Hops. And I'm really excited about If It Hops. People seem to be digging the concept of it. So we'll get my link in there later. But let's go ahead and see what Leigh's got, because I know he's got some cool questions. I know he's been jonesing to get into these questions. So I'm excited to see what's going on. Let's see what's up, man.
Righto. Well, SK, master of storytelling and wizardry and, and Kickstarter world, you've got double thumbs up from everyone there. You're very successful. Now, mate, we know what you can do, and we'll hear more about your side of, how you like to tell stories. But one thing I would be most interested in getting down in the, the dirt and gritty with you is what there's processes that a writer, an artist, a creator goes through, whether it's right or wrong. I have my processes. Dustin would have his. Of course, you would have yours, which is what I'm leading to. What is the first thing that I guess sparks you for, like, for example, let's talk about your latest Kickstarter, Wolf Cubs with Chris Pitcairn, great artist. G'day to Chris out there as well.
A fellow New South Wales guy.
Super talented.
Awesome.
So where did that start, mate? Were you having brekkie one morning and you thought to yourself, bang, there's an idea, you saw, what was the accumulative process from the first point of thought to where you're at now, if you don't mind, running through that with us, mate?
Oh, always. Look, ideas are a dime a dozen, and I'll always say that to everybody. Everybody always has a good idea, and it's not a bad thing. How ideas generate, honestly, I can't answer that process. So it's actually very philosophical if you want to dive down into how people get ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. But more than ideas is really execution. And what I advise any aspiring people who are thinking of writing or developing things is the first step of everything is write it down. I don't know how many people I've talked to, and these are people who have approached me and just go, how have you done what you did? The other thing I do is, and I don't know if you guys know, is I do a lot of school and library talks. So I actually go into schools and I run different workshops and talk to kids. And the question really is how do I get this? And you find with kids, and the reason I'm dialing it back is because a lot of people tend to they lose their imagination a little bit. And it's true. But when you talk to kids, man, the ideas they generate are so much fun. And when you write it down, it becomes real. So one exercise I like to do, and this is during the school workshops, and you guys can take it whichever way you will. It's basically take an adjective and then take a noun and then join it together. And that's your lead character. And you get to something like weird stuff like a stupid potato and tell me a story about a stupid potato. Oh yeah, he's so stupid. He walked into the French fry and became a French fry. And you can kind of see as kids can instantly, when you ask them to do stuff like that, it's like that. And it's not something that I think a lot of people as they grow older, they forget a lot of that. And that's why a lot of improv is a lot of fun, because it's just really fun to take things and just go, you know what? If I'm not going to be judged on something, I'm just going to write down a whole bunch of fun stuff and then see what sticks.
So is that how you start, like with what you were saying there? You've got all these ideas, you're taking notes. Do you do the classic, like I've got 32 sticky notes on a wall and I'm going to move them around to do something? Or do you sit there on your chair, just pondering to yourself and ideas bam into your mind and you can tack that into another idea you've had maybe 3 or 4 months before, do you start the same process as how you teach your kids?
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing that the next step afterwards is then, okay, you've got this stupid potato. What's your hook? And this is the absolute fun part about developing an idea is I love alternate worlds. I like worlds which are similar to ours, but not quite our world. For example, I like, and this is why there's an old computer game that actually inspired a lot of this called Command and Conquer. It's a situation where what happens in the World War II if the Russians won or the Russians didn't allied with the rest of the West. If they decide, you know what, screw you guys, we're going to try to take over. And it's a lot of fun concepts to take something that's close to historical and then add a little spin onto it. And when you do that, for example, you could have, if you take anything, let's say what happens is space travel becomes really abundant and it's easy enough to get to the moon and back. You can write a whole story about how the moon landing is different. And it's just really interesting to take something that's kind of happened and then twist it your way. So, and I'll go through, so once you have the hook, and I'll give you an example with wolf cubs. One of the big hooks about wolf cub even became before as a fantasy story. It was very much the concept of what if you got what you wanted and not what you needed. And it's the whole concept that you want to be rich, you want to be popular, you want to be powerful. But in most cases, when you're granted that, you don't know what to do with it. And the whole concept behind that is, if you look a bit of some facts, if most people who win the lottery are bankrupt within 5 years. So everybody's wishing, I want to win the lottery, I'm going to do all this great stuff. And in 5 years, they are usually in a worse position than where they were before they won the lottery. So winning the lottery was actually a financial, it's a horrible financial event for them to win the lottery. Just imagine that. They overspend. They're now in so much debt. they can never get a job again. It's that type of thing. So Wolf Cut started out with the concept of basically you've got these three characters who all want something. And then what you find is when they're actually given what they want, they find out, oh gosh, it's actually not what I need. And so that's the next step. You start with the concept. And then I decided, you know what? I haven't really written anything fantasy, like pure fantasy, pure D&D for a while. And that led me down that rabbit hole. And so when you start talking about now building the story out, so you've got this idea and you're building the story out, and I'm going to keep using Wolf Cubs as the story idea, is you have to develop three types of conflict. And this is when you're building any story, especially with more than one character. There's always three conflicts you have to introduce. Because if you don't have these three conflicts within the story, it doesn't draw the audience attention. And so the three main conflicts to always bring to any story is the inner conflict. Each of the characters should be fighting against something. And, the second main conflict is there has to be conflict between characters. And we're not talking, I hate you, we got to beat each other up. It could be a conflict of ideology. And I like to use Star Trek The Next Generation always as my absolute yardstone of conflict between characters. Because what you see a lot now in movies, TV shows, and stuff like that, whenever there's a conflict between characters, it's always the yelling and screaming. And it gets very petty. And it's like, I like to think of Big Bang Theory as conflict between characters. It's a very conflict-driven character sitcom where a lot of the characters always fight among each other. And it always, I know it's played up for humor, don't get me wrong, but it's always descends into pettiness. Sheldon always does something stupid, Leonard does something bad, and it just descends until the end of the episode. But conflict between the characters, if anybody hasn't seen it yet, Star Trek The Next Generation is the best type of conflict between characters because it's ideological different conflict. So there was one episode where if you haven't seen it, Picard is the captain, Will Riker is the second in command. When they go into conflict, they're not trying to beat each other up. They're not trying to outdo each other. They're not playing pranks at each other. It is actually a very civilized discussion. One of my favorite episodes was basically they had to decide whether they had an android which name was Data, and they had to decide whether Data was sentient, had sentience, which means he can make his own decisions, or whether he was still considered Star Trek property, of which then he was going to be dissected and his matrix is going to be examined. Now, that you then have a huge ideological conflict. One is what makes sentience and what makes this robot, if you will, a real person, and the other one is what makes him a property. And that whole episode was actually the two lead characters, the captain and his first officer, having that conflict to decide what he was. And that driving conflict makes you remember a lot more than, I hate him, he hates me, I hate her, blah, 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 but yell, you scream.
Yeah.
Deeper stories will focus on conflict of ideas, not just conflict of situations. So conflict between characters, and just want to make sure that conflict between characters, if you can make it a conflict of ideas, it really develops the characters a lot more than just having it a conflict of situation. Now, of course, the final conflict. So you've got inner conflict of the person inside needs to grow or needs to change. And they always, by the way, people usually say it's the hero's journey. They need to change for the better. I'm always, nah, you don't need the hero's journey. They can change for the worse. And I always love stories which subvert that expectation of inner conflict where they're not changing for the better. They're changing for the worse. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. Sorry, losing my voice. So you've got that. And the conflict between characters, I would say, is make it a conflict of ideas. Don't make it, he stole my he stole my gun. I don't like him touching my gun. And I think that's actually where a lot of superhero teams get it wrong. And a lot of it is situational conflict between characters when if you have a conflict between ideas, take for example, it's better for say, and the classic too is within the X-Men, since you guys all like X-Men, between Cyclops and Wolverine. Why do they yell at each other? Oh, because they both love Jean Grey and the jealousy between the two of them. I mean, but wouldn't it be better if the Magneto Charles Xavier conflict is actually a lot deeper, because it's actually a conflict of who's right in this situation. And guess what?
Yeah.
Neither of them are really right, but they're so strung to either side of the conflict that when you read the book, you go, you know what? You both are idiots. Meet somewhere in the middle. But for the Jean Grey Wolverine Cyclops conflict, I find that honestly very boring. Oh, I'm the leader. You need to listen to what I say. Oh, I'm the rebel. I don't want to. But we both like this girl, Jean, so we're gonna fight over her.
I think that has to do with, though, if you start looking at things like that and you breaking it down into things, you also have to look at dynamic, though. All right, you have to look at who's now, once again, getting back into what X-Men was. X-Men was a child's book. You know what I mean? It wasn't pushed to adults. It was, marketed as a young person's book. So if you get it too deep, you start pulling too deep into a story, kids are going to walk away from it. It's not interesting. I can remember being young and picking up X-Men off a spinner rack, and if the bubbles were too long, I quit reading them. You know what I mean? If there was, hey, truth be told, if there wasn't enough action, I put the book down. You know what I mean? So, and that's coming from a perspective of a kid. You know what I mean? Now, as an adult, you want more to your books and you want more to your stories, and that's cool. But like I said, that it all comes into, your majority of people reading X-Men were between like 10 and 20 at that point in time. You know what I mean? In the early 90s and whatnot. And you looked at these books and you were like, man, that's our own daytime drama. You know what I mean? You were interested in who Jean was going to be with. It wasn't about, comic books now are very different. And it goes into what you were just talking about, man. It goes into the fact that we look for so much more now than we looked into our books before. You could read Calvin and Hobbes and enjoy it and think it was one of the greatest things that you'd ever picked up.
It still is, by the way. I've got the set of the complete adventure. I've got every issue.
Right, and they're
collecting all the strips, basically.
I love it. And there's this nowadays, though, we have this we need more than we did then. You know what I mean? Our mental capacity is so much larger than it was when we were younger. So now we crave more. We crave the depth. We crave the switches and the 180-degree turns and all that jazz. You know what I mean? Whereas we didn't have that before. How's it going, Sean?
Yeah.
How's it going, Peter? Rob?
Yep. Hey,
we didn't have those. So it was, now you're starting to see the differences. So certain things we get in there and it's like apples to oranges, right? It's like Stephen King to Jim Lee's X-Men. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, or even like going 30 Days a Night to, Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? It's just a very different type of thing. So I think that when we look at these things and we start going, is this deep enough? Is this entertaining enough? But we have to look at the value of the entertainment. What part of it is entertaining us? Is it just the artwork? Is it the bam, smash, whoosh? You know what I mean? Which you're great at, by the way, sir, the bam, smash, whoosh. So, but there's the concept of, are we getting more from this than we had when we were younger now? Or are we looking for something that can satiate what we crave now? And I think that there's comic books, like nowadays, there are books that are, you mentioned the whole thing with AIs. You know what I mean? AI is a big deal. There's the Turing test comes to mind every time I hear somebody talk about AIs. And for those of you that don't know what the Turing test is actually a very real test where we go in to see if people can tell the difference between an AI and a human being. It's a very interesting thing. So there's our little bit of intel for this evening so far. We've learned a little bit. But when you do this, like BGD, AIs are huge in BGD. You know what I mean? It's a very big deal for us because I have my own opinions on sentience and what should be valued as a living being. You know what I mean? And we show a little bit off of that in our books, because we talk about tank breds, what it is to be a tank bred. Do they have, rights to be, their own people, or they owned, you know what I mean? And essentially in our series, we treat it's outlawed now, but it's still done in the shadows, and to me, it's like slavery. You're literally creating a being just so you can control it. Now there's a fine line with AI as well. You know what I mean? You're creating this AI, and it has its own thoughts, its own feelings, but there are people out there that don't consider them to be alive. So it's a very interesting slope. But those are the things that make things interesting. Like we can go back to X-Men when we were younger, and the most interesting thing you're going to find is what's going on in Genosha is, Magneto running the show, or now you can get so deep as you can get into like the Morlocks. What's going on with the Morlocks? You know what I mean? But we don't see those types of stories from them anymore. You know what I mean? Marvel has gone in a direction that is very different than it was at one point. So I think that I do think it's very, very different when you look for a story and what's catchy now.
I would challenge that actually, and I'll use my absolute favorite movie, or one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, Aliens, 1986.
For sure.
This is you're looking
the director's cut or the theatrical cut. That also brings into.
I won't go into that argument. That's another 2 hours.
For sure. I was just thinking about it because The Brood actually while we were just talking about that.
So again, looking at the three conflicts that come through. So you've got the inner one, the conflict between characters, and then you've got the last conflict, which I didn't talk about yet, which is a large-scale conflict, which is basically there's an external party or an external force that these characters are coming in conflict with.
For sure.
So let's talk then aliens. You've got the whole Sigourney Weaver conflict about, you know what, I've been woken up from a sleep. Do I belong in this world? My daughter is now older than I am. And she got all that whole conflict about her trying to find her place in the world. That's how come with Newt, she becomes the mother figure. And that's the whole conflict and that resolution. She projects onto Newt a lot. They're saying, Newt's now I'm going to be the mother figure to Newt. There's now the conflict between the different characters, like the soldiers are there to do the job. You've got that creepy executive who's trying to, oh man, I'm going to use this as my next bioweapon. I'm going to get a copy of it. While the soldiers are there going, you know what? Is it an alien race? Is it worth keeping? Or, you know what? They are horrible things. We're just going to kill them. And then, of course, you've got the larger scale conflict about the aliens trying to eat, and no, not eat, but to use humans and kill all of us. So even in an action sci-fi movie like Aliens, which I think, again, still one of my favorite movies of all time, you still present three levels of conflict in the show, and even in X-Men. And again, I'm not arguing whether they did it, how they did it, but they still covered all of them. Every character. I love Chris Claremont because he did the whole soap opera thing so well.
Absolutely.
Every character has their own arc. Every character feels real, and that's why I find a lot of the X-Men that were developed during that period are so much more recognizable than the X-Men that came afterwards. So that period of the X-Men, like for example, Angel, he's an original X-Men, but to be really fair, nobody hears much about him. But someone like during the Claremont period, Kitty Pryde, you find out, where she's from,
Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was a great version of that, because this little demonic blue fella that, essentially when you first see him, he's just like two-dimensional teleporter. But then over like 70, 80 issues of being able to flesh out this character, you know what I mean? You realize...
And you find out he's Catholic as well. He looks like a demon.
And wanted to be a priest and all this sort of stuff, and is sort of stuck being a superhero, even though he doesn't want to be, I guess, because no one else will have him.
I'm with you on that. I think, but you hit the nail on the head, though. You really hit the nail on the head with the X-Men, though. Let's go on to in the of that. Claremont is what saved the X-Men.
Oh, you know 100%.
So in bringing him up, though, you were just talking about Aliens. He actually wrote the highest selling Aliens series that came out. It's called Aliens Predator: Deadliest Species. It was 13-issue run, and it's literally like a space opera. You know,
I've got that issues. I've read that one. It's fantastic.
it's my absolute favorite. You know what I mean? But but the thing that with the X-Men though, in that line of thought is same thing that Marvel does with all its books. Same thing that DC's been doing forever now. You have runs with writers. You know what I mean? You're going to have a great run with a book that you like, and then you're going to have a not so great run with a book you like. You know, unlike me, that I ended up having Venom being one of my favorite characters from the beginning, like OG right out the bat character. You know, and then all of a sudden we got into the 2000s, and I was like, I hate this so much, I don't even know what to think about it anymore. You know what I mean? And then every time you turned around, you saw a symbiote. It wasn't exciting anymore. It wasn't different. It wasn't new. And then as I got older, I was like, holy shit, it's Spawn. I mean, considering Venom came out before Spawn, but it's Todd McFarlane all day long. You know, it's his creation. But then you start looking at it and you're like, man, there's your angsty anti-hero all day long, you know, with the living suit, and instead of dealing with hell, he's dealing with Peter Parker. You know what I mean? It's a very we have to be careful, like I said, with originality. That's what's so important. When we find these things that are so different, you know what I mean? If you, let's say that you write a book a la D&D, okay? You come out and you've got your you know, trio of characters, your party that grows as it goes through the storyline. Okay, those are tried and true methods of storytelling. They've been around for ever, you know, starting with like Lord of the Rings and all that jazz. You know what I mean? You had your party and they were together and they went on adventures and it was great. But see, that's different because of the fact that it's not like you don't have like the market for this one particular group of people. You know what I mean? Now you can go, oh, look, anybody can be a warrior. It's in the dictionary. They can pick up a sword and a board and go. You know what I mean? Or same thing with a wizard or a mage or a necromancer or whatever and what have you that you're dealing with, or a bard or whatever. But it's cool because each tale is different. Like each type of thing is different enough to be a different story. You know, like if you look at Dragonlance versus Forgotten Realms, you know what I mean? There's different types of, you know, storytelling in there that make it different. I think who did one? I want to say that IDW tried to put out one not long ago. That may have been a D&D book too, though. It was like Frost Giants or something. It was probably a D&D book. But stuff like that can be done and have its own originality to it. Versus, like I said earlier, when you take a character like holy cow, Superman and Sentry, right? It's just a different color palette, you know. Hey, look, this is my dude. He's got the power of 30 suns in his body. You know what I mean? He's out there whooping everybody's ass. Cool. You know, I mean, it's just got to be new. It's got to be original.
I think sometimes, you know, because I enjoy talking all this, you know, we're talking details, you know, like how you come up with ideas, flows and ebbs and what strikes you and that. I sometimes think for myself when I get a little bit, I guess, caught up and you know, sometimes you can overthink something and, you know, you can't quite get it and you'll spend ages and ages, whether it's a drawing or a twist in a story or how do I get that character to point A to point B. I think sometimes you got to break it down and just keep it real simple sometimes. And then I've always found that the things that I draw and the things that I've written and created and stuff, like, you know, with Tam and that, when it gets too overcomplicated and we break it down to simple, that's when you start finding a little bit more room to, I guess, put ideas that have long been passed. Like, because my brain is, I don't know, man, like, I don't think I've got any rooms in my head. I just think it's a whole, like, whirlwind of stuff that goes on some days, you know, like some days I'm sensical and some days I'm not. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think if you can sit there, no matter what steps you take to get your creation out, and you can actually, I think the first person you need to please is yourself. I think there's a certain, too many people are concerned about what the bloke next door is thinking or, you know, what this guy over the road's thinking, because essentially, I mean, you've already got 1 foot in front of them because you're putting stuff out. You're involved. You're trying to tell your story.
You've written it down. That's probably the absolute key thing. It's if you don't write it down, it's not real. And as soon as And
Yep.
exactly what you said, I 100% agree. It's as much as I can delve into a lot of theory, conflicts, and all the rest of it, if you're not having fun, don't do it. Like, seriously, it has to be fun for you. This, scary as it seems, it is fun for me. That I love to see how things go, and I love to write things. But I don't write things to go, oh, I wonder if Shane will like this or Leigh will like this. I'll be honest with you, that does not cross my mind. It's, I hope you like it,
Right.
and I hope you give me feedback, but I don't write with thinking, oh, you know, are these people going to enjoy it? And
Yeah.
and so that's where I think if you can combine three things, and I've discussed this before, but if you can combine three things into your story and you do it well, you have this amazing story. And the first one is, the conflict and the characters. You get them fleshed out. You get them, and the thing is, they don't actually have to be super fleshed out with the whole details. The main thing about that is they have to be real. And the best way to make a character feel real is pretend you're that character. How would you act? How would you do it? And a lot of people get caught up with characters as plot points. The evil guy shoots the good guy, and that's why the good guy comes back. They use the character's actions as that plot point. And if you take that one step back and go, hey, why did the character do this? You find yourself asking the why questions, which actually then facilitates this really more interesting story. Second thing is then the storyline. If you get a really good storyline, and the third thing, which is probably the rabbit hole, which you sometimes get stuck in, is the world building. Develop the world, make it seem that the world is real. And the fun thing about world building is you don't need to know everything. I'll use my example for Wolf Cubs as a fantasy genre. With fantasy, there's a whole bunch of different genres within fantasy. There's the Lord of the Rings, the epic stuff. There's the more quiet fantasy. There's a new type of genre of fantasy, which is called the quest fantasy, which is basically a very much D&D type genre where a bunch of characters, they pick up a quest, they go on an adventure, quest finishes. If you ever read the book Rat Queens is very much that quest genre fantasy, which is a lot of fun. But if you get all three elements and you lump it and you can kind of mesh them all together, even if you kind of do it, man, you've got something that's fantastic. And in terms of ideas, just getting back to the original question is, seriously, ideas come from everywhere. Don't discount an idea. Try to look for a hook within your idea. And once you get that hook, the thing is, the hook can be a world building hook. For example, the hook could be what happens if the Russians won World War II and decided, you know what, I'm going to call it. That's your hook. And then you develop all the stuff out from the hook. Your hook could be what happens if a cop has to find out who killed his wife. You know what I mean? That's a plot line hook. It's not a world building hook. That's a plot line story hook. Or what happens? How does a man bring himself out of depression? Again, that's an inner conflict hook, a character building hook. So if you've got one of these elements, that's kind of why I know it's a really long way for me to get to the idea section, but the ideas can usually fall into either world building, character, or plot. Start with one of those things. Get that question of what if for one of those three things, and that should spark your idea to develop. So again, newer writers out there, just get one of the three. You don't need all of them, and then over time you can then build up all three of them. And when you do build up all three of them, your story will thank you for it, and it would be a bit more interesting.
And it's amazing too that you don't just, I think time plays into this as well, because as Kate, you're a thinker. I mean, we're all thinkers here, like probably been, guilty of overthinking certain situations, I have been. But ideas take time too to build upon, and you don't have to, for anyone starting or anyone, like out there, I mean, you don't have to just sit down like at 10 o'clock in the morning and go, this is it, this is the hour, this is now, you know what I mean? Like, and have your idea. I mean, these things can take weeks, months. I mean, there's no right or wrong. It just takes patience and just thinking and, just trying your best and being proud of what you're doing. And I mean, if you feel good about what you're writing, then I mean, or drawing, then I mean, essentially that's the best place to start. And I mean, improvement comes from that. Like, I mean, man, I find myself like every day I sit down, like look at yesterday's drawing and I think to myself, oh, like bugger. And then I think I've got to do better with, let's say, hands, so I'll go away and reference hands and I'll be looking at that and drawing them and stuff, until I get better. I mean, you always improve. It's like a sportsman. But I like to think that, SK, there's an analogy that a great like film hero of mine is David Lynch. And he was asked a question once about ideas. And he associates ideas to like going fishing. Like when you go fishing, you're all in the same pond. You'll catch a fish. It just depends on whether it's a small one or a big one. Like it depends on which one you get. And some you can get lucky and others you can't. But there's still fish out there. You'll just, strike on, like the big one that day where you'll fall in love with it. And once you're in love with an idea, I think that's your first step. That's when you're off and running for me. I don't know about you guys, but obviously, I know Dustin when he, and for anyone out there, BGD is Babes, Gore and Dinosaurs, which is Dustin. They might not know the breakdown, mate, but that's his latest thing at the moment. And I know I was lucky enough 12 months ago to read a synopsis of that before any artwork was done. And his excitement, man, was palpable. It was like, this is, and boom, and just the momentum picked up. And I think that's how it is. I mean, SK, you're excited by Wolf Cubs, you know what I mean? Like, with Chris Pitcairn and stuff, like you can see it that you're bang, I want to talk about this because this is my new thing. And, I mean, that's the best thing to do. We should share a link for SK as well for people out there that may be interested.
I think he shared the comments.
I shared it right at the beginning.
Sweet. Awesome.
There is one thing I do want to share, and look, it's a bit of a self-plug. I do want to share the video that because I won't share the whole campaign, but I do want to show people. The video is about it's under 2 minutes, but it's all Chris Pitcairn goodness. So if it's okay, could I share the video?
Yeah.
Give me a sec. Share screen.
Far away, buddy.
Make sure it's audio and Chrome tab. And knowing my luck, it hopefully will work. But I love this. And there is something I do want to talk about once when this is done.
Nice.
Oh, so the main thing I want to talk about that is, and I'm a big advocate of this. I'm taking a small segue. I would really like to see more motion comics. I really think if you want the future, I think that it is that's it.
It's definitely since we've started working together doing them, it's a very I don't know, a year ago, I think we had a conversation where we said it was going to be an industry standard. and it has literally become an industry standard. If you look at every successful campaign nowadays on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, wherever you go, there's always the motion comic attached to it. Even if it's just a short one, there's always something attached. That being said, it being serious business nowadays, even Marvel's doing it. I mean, Marvel's putting them out now for all their books, the books that they think are going to be big. Now they have full length trailers. Like instead of just a minute or two, they're like 3-minute, 4-minute trailers. So, I mean, it's definitely a thing.
Like imagine this, that what you saw in the video I just showed was basically 2 animated pages. Imagine if you did the whole 22 pages animated, that if you watched it, the bubbles pop up, the characters move a little bit. I think it's actually a really interesting learning device because as a medium, like you've got comics, graphic novels, which was always the medium between prose and pure artwork. So graphic novels and comics kind of slotted it in between that medium. And now there's a medium between full animation and graphic novels, which is motion comics. I see it happening. I honestly see it happening that you imagine a 20 minutes, no voice dialogue, but you can actually read the screen and think. I don't know. What's your thoughts? Do you think it's viable out there? Like actually a full, here's all 20 pages in a motion comic.
In personal opinion, a very personal opinion, because this is by no means a reflection on anybody else in this room. I don't believe so. I don't believe I think right now. So now you're starting to talk like digital comics is what you're looking at the same time.
Not quite digital comics because digital comics is like a PDF. You can flip.
I understand.
But this one's actually like a video as a comic.
Right.
Yep.
I understand. But not everybody wants to sit at their computer all the time to watch a video or this or that. That's what I'm getting at. There are still people that would rather, let's say, Flash Player, right? Most things take Flash Player of one sort or another. A lot of people have issues with it. You know what I mean? So anyway, I don't think web comics do as well as certain other mediums do. You know what I mean? I just personally don't. And I've looked at numbers. I thought when I first started putting out comic books, I was like, man, I can go cheaper if I do a web comic, and I don't think it holds as much water as your traditional comic books in your hand, nor do I think it holds as much water as a PDF, just because those mediums you don't have to have the internet for. And a lot of people take PDFs because let's say you're in the military, you can't do this, you can't do that, but you can have something that you can pull up a book and read on that you don't have to have the internet connection for. So I think that if you're looking for a type of buyer, if you're looking for a particular market, it does what its purpose would be for if you're looking to market toward that individual. But if you're looking to market toward a comic book reader, a traditional comic book reader, they're probably going to go, oh yeah, that's cool, and they'll check it out once. Maybe they'll hit it a second time, but I don't see it being a longevity type of deal. That's like when a TV show comes out and it mildly catches your interest. It's not like one of your big 3 shows or something. You're like, oh yeah, cool. I was on the internet and I caught that the other day. You know what I mean? It's not like they don't like it. It's just it's one of those things that is not on the top of your noggin. You know what I mean? When you're going to look at things. Because more so now than ever, like especially now in the United States, and that's intel I can bring into this conversation. So you look at Marvel and DC Comics, okay? Marvel and DC Comics, and Image is fine right now. Image is doing well. Most indie publishers are doing well, with the exception Dark Horse was just sold, so that's a whole other conversation. But if you look at most comic sales now, they're indie books. You've had directors and guys way up in these companies that are going, hey, look, the future of our industry is movies and film and television, versus right now when you go to the indie market and it's booming. You know what I mean? It's booming. Coffin's destroying numbers out here. BDI's out there destroying numbers. You know what I mean? There's all these young bucks are coming up and they're like, oh yeah, well, look at our comic books. And they're doing really, really, really well. And I think that's the difference, because we're getting back into the age of physical books. As much as everybody was worried 10 years ago we were going to get stuck in digital, man, I lived it. I owned a comic book shop. You know, people were scared to death it was going digital all day long. And Marvel and DC started putting the PDF codes in their books. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you, but a handful of people I've ever met that actually went and got those PDFs. You know what I mean? It's not you're talking about a market of people that are stuck in their ways to a degree, and now you're trying to tell them that they're going to need to do something different to get their medium. I don't see it. I think it's going to go just like everybody was like, oh yeah, we're all going VR. Cool, yeah, that lasted. You know what I mean?
I seem to recall that you used to be able, probably 10 years back, I might be wrong, but I seem to recall they brought out, like 4-disc DVD sets of motion comic books for classic Marvel stuff, like huge runs of the Uncanny X-Men, for example, and the Incredible Hulk and all of those sorts of things. And you could buy them from your Big W's, your Targets, that sort of stuff for $20. And the really weird part is like, yeah, like purpose served, I guess. But I got a little bit of a penchant for wandering around, you know, like secondhand stores and stuff. I like seeing what's out there, and, you know, like one man's junk is another man's treasure and all that. Well, that's another story for another time. But what I'm sort of getting to is like, it's amazing how many times, and I'm not suggesting they're junk, okay? So, but it's just topical conversation because I saw one the other day. There was a Marvel DVD set, Motion Comics, 100 comics or something on these 4 DVDs in a Lifeline shop for like $1. And I thought to myself, you know, okay, no worries. That's cool. But I remember them being huge at the time. And the thing I'm getting to, I guess, is with the physical copies, you know, you guys are collectors. People will hang on to their comic books and protect them in acid-proof bags and boards and, you know, only read them once. And I know people that take camera movies, you know what I mean, of the comic books so they can read them back instead of touching the comic books. And the poor old DVD, you know, like gets, you know, the first thing to go, oh, we've got to get rid of some stuff. Let's get rid of the DVDs. I mean, it's sad, but I certainly hope the comic books don't ever die because, you know, that beautiful popping open the acid-proof bag and getting that comic, it's fresh and, you know, like just the turning of the page. And I also think there's some eloquences to the page. And SK's touched on this before with like the page turning and stuff like that down the bottom right-hand corner that don't come across in PDFs either, I think. You know, you can miss.
You do lose that in PDFs because there's no physical turn. So that's an aspect of writing which gets lost. Absolutely gets lost. But I think in terms of a medium, and the one reason why I think initially motion comics never did that well, it's really put aside the selling and the monetary side behind it. It's a very weird medium. Like for example, like the thing I showed you with Wolf Cubs, I could have. I mean, if I knew enough people, and I'm hoping to get volunteers one day to do voiceovers for it. So rather than the speech bubbles come up, you actually have voiceovers. And then if I do voiceovers, why not I just put more animation in, and then suddenly the hands start moving a lot more. Like what you saw there is effects, but you didn't actually see anybody's hands move, for example. Right. You get the hand, and then you start going, well, now that's just a 20-minute cartoon now. And I think it's a bit jarring. Like there's one, for example, there's one show which I just watched called Arcane. It's up from Netflix.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely loved it. Mm-hmm. The first 2 episodes, though, were very, very jarring for me. And what made Arcane stand out a lot more than, say, traditional animation is every frame is almost painted. And because every frame was almost painted, and it feels like a painting is moving, what happens is it jars you because that's not what you expect. And because that's not what you expect, and I'll show you what it looks like. Let me share. I know we're just jumping way.
Oh, you're fine. Do you remember? Do you have a Super Nintendo when you were younger, there, Steven?
I did actually. I used to play Street Fighter on it.
Okay, right on. Right, perfect example. Okay, Street Fighter. So back then, you had cutscenes in video games. The Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis era, in particular, they were all that way. They were all the slow, like just enough motion to give you the fact that something was happening in the frame, but it wasn't like a cartoon. You know what I mean? You catch these, like, then you get your words at the bottom, very little motion. I think it has to do with the technology, to be honest, man. I think people start looking at things, they're like, that's archaic, or this is, I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. There are different reasons for, shenanigans and whatnot.
Oh, definitely. But you can kind of see here. So imagine this type of artwork. You can kind of see here, this type of artwork being animated. And I have to admit, the first couple of episodes were really jarring because you don't expect it to move. Your mind mentally thinks this is a painting. Paintings can't move. And it is very jarring until you get used to it. And then once you get used to it, you should see it. Once you get used to it, man, it's gorgeous. So imagine, this is not a still. I mean, sorry, this is actually a still from the show. This isn't a pinup.
No, it's a great show. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. But in terms of, say, in between mediums, I would say Arcane is actually a little bit, doesn't push that envelope all the way to, say, a motion comic.
Right.
And man, the first time you watch it, your brain keeps processing, no, this can't happen. That's a painting. That person shouldn't be moving. That shouldn't be moving. Sure. And it took me 2 episodes to go, you know what, brain, shut up. Just enjoy watching the show. So it takes a while. But that's where, for me, say with that motion comic, the one I showed you for Wolf Cubs, to be really fair, and I'm happy to open to the chat, open to you guys, because I'm half thinking, do I go back and do the entire series, like get all 40, 45 pages all done? It'll end up being about 20 minutes all up. Is it worth doing that and then get that full thing? Or is it something that is too new and it's that people don't appreciate? Because I can understand it's an in between a medium, and what you tend to find, people who see new things, they tend not to like it. Like, to be fair, I was almost going to drop off Arcane on the second episode until after you get, but I was so engaged with the characters.
Right? Your time is what's important, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at, like, right now, we're working on an actual pilot for a television show right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you start getting into that and you realize, like, 15 seconds of animation is an hour, almost an hour's work. What I mean?
It can be a lot more.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm throwing numbers out that are just, what I mean? Yeah. Whatever. But the point is, we did 2 minutes and it was over 6.5 hours the other day. You know what I mean? So it was like, it's how much time do you want to put into it versus the return? Are you doing it because it's fun? Are you doing it because you're going to get value out of it? I think that's the determining factor. Will you enjoy it? Sure, it'll be great. Is it good practice? I'm sure it is. You know what I mean? But will you be happy with it in the end? I think that's what, they were talking about earlier, is, are you happy with it? And that's why you need to do it. If you're happy with it, bro, that's what you need to do. If not, don't. But if you think it'll be cool, do it just because it'll be cool to you, man. You know what I mean?
That makes perfect sense.
I like everything you do. So if you think it's cool, I'm going to think it's
cool. You're too nice.
Man, I think it's 100% just trying things. I mean, if you don't start, no one knows. Like, someone's got to start. And if SK, you want to be the person and these thoughts are running around in your mind, man, and it's something, again, that, as Dustin said, and we've said, that you want to do and you're confident with it, then have a crack at it, man, because no one is going to throw any stones at you for giving it. Like, my God, I've said this dozens of times on all these ComX shows. I've said, man, if we sat and listened to every buffhead that told us we couldn't do everything, then no one would get anything done. We'd just we'd be all sitting in a box somewhere, man. It's it's just, mate. Sometimes you
can't make any money in comic books.
It's like, I believe, SK, that, I mean, I think there's room for everything, man, to a certain extent. Some things will be more successful than others. Some ideas, won't be popular. Some will. But, I mean, you're never going to know if you just don't do it, mate. And it's like, it's what you're getting back to with kids, encouraging imagination and stuff. I've always found it really weird that adults encourage children to draw and paint and build sandcastles, snowmen, you know what I mean? Like do all of these things. But then once they reach a certain age, you start getting, as a kid, you start getting, I see kids, it never happened to me, but, other children that start getting a bit of flack from, oh, why are you doing that? There's other things you should be doing. You know what I mean? You need to think about the future at like 10 years old. I want to be, come on, 10-year-olds should be reading comic books, drawing, painting,
100%.
that sort of stuff. And feed the imagination. I applaud anyone that, encourages creativity in all facets, man. Music, comics, art, fashion, whatever you want to call art, craft, the whole thing. It's like you should never take that away. And if it makes you feel good and it's your meditation, it makes you feel good within a person, then you go ahead and do it, man, and stick it up that bloke that's telling you to do it. That's what
that's actually one of the reasons I love doing this school and library workshops. It's absolutely fun for me. And I don't know, you get the sense when we do these workshops that a lot of kids have been told no so many times. And then you got a guy like me who's going, yes, do that, and do that, and do that. And when you actually give them and to be fair, there are times where I get the side eye from the teacher going, no, you can't do that. Go, yeah, just let him. Because, look, let's be fair, they're still kids. So sometimes it does descend into potty humor a lot. But I don't stop it. And the teacher's going, no, you can't let that happen. You can't have any talking poos on your thing. Just let it. Nobody's going to find out. But I think that's where, I don't know. And again, going back to your original discussion ideas, I think at a certain point, you've been told no so many times to get somebody coming in to do a workshop for you guys, telling you, yes, do it. Yes, that's fine. Yes, go ahead. And I've always said it to a lot of the kids and what I tend to do is I say, look, if you ever want to talk, you can always contact your teachers who can reach out to me and stuff like that. Yeah. And there's kids who when they talk to teachers, I always say to them, look, the worst thing you can do in a creative writing environment is to say the word no. Right. And but the absolute thing is they said so many times, and I've heard it. I've been through high school stuff like that. You hear that, no, that you can't do that. No, don't talk about that. No. And at a certain point, as we grow up, I have a feeling that after hearing so many no's, some people turn off. And it's actually, and I have to say, for the people who are creating now, who are working through, you gotta stop listening to that. Stop listening to that no. And if it's hard, if it doesn't work, if everybody thinks it's horrible, who cares? As long as you had fun doing it, that's all that matters, really.
Absolutely, 100%, mate. Encouragement, man. That's what it is. Yep. More people need to be encouraged to do these things. And
yep. Cool. I think the next guest is here, so I will say thank you guys so much for your time. And
thank you, mate.
I really appreciate it. I do go on rants and rambles. I do acknowledge that.
We enjoy your company on the show, SK. You're good. You're enthusiastic, mate. It's all. I can feel the heat coming off the screen. Sunglasses in a minute, and a hazmat suit. My God.
And the other thing I really feel like is you can tell Dustin has owned the comic book shop before because his knowledge of the lore behind all these comics is absolutely fantastic. And this is the other thing. One last thing before I go. I promise you, this is my last thing. Read as much as you can. If you want to get ideas, the best way to get ideas is to read ravenously and read things which challenge you as well. So if you like the X-Men, of course, go and read the X-Men, but read other stuff. Like the one thing I absolutely am really lucky is because I've got a kid growing up, I read her books too. And because when I read her stuff, I read Reyna. I read books which aren't marketed to me, but you can start reading and go, oh my God. Like, for example, The Babysitter's Club, absolutely not marketed to a guy like me. Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
I'm surprised.
Maybe, but we'll talk about that off air. But it is so well written. Like for me, I get caught up in these characters. I'm going, oh my God, he broke up with her. How could he? That's not right. And the fact that it's so well written that way, and I know it's not written. I'm not the target audience. But if you can read all these different books, all these different things, it only makes for better ideas because you start seeing things from other perspectives, which makes it better still. So with that last thought, thank you so much for having me on.
Now I know what to send you for Christmas, SK. Babysitters Club's year-long subscription, man.
Read it. It's a New York Times bestseller. I challenge you to read it. Read Judy Blume's, which read all those books, even if it's not targeted to you, because guess what? It's good writing is good writing. Good characters are good characters. Doesn't matter anything else. If it's done well, you will still enjoy it. Saying that, thank you so much.
Words of a master.
SK.
Hanging out with us,
Wise
man.
words.
Appreciate you, bro.
Champion.
Okay, bye guys.
And I shall bring April in.
April Reyna. Oh, it's April Reyna.
Hello,
What's
April.
going on, everybody?
Hello.
Hello.
G'day.
What up?
So
I'm going to leave you in the company of these two gentlemen for a moment. I'm ducking outside to get a bottle of water. I will be back.
Ooh, excellent.
Oh.
Water's code for something else, right? Like
is it?
coffee?
Oh.
I don't know. I'm not sure, actually. I'm a bit curious now.
Oh, gosh. Better than coffee.
Whatever. Lame. Coffee is life. That's how I get through everything.
Nope. Let it kill me. Murder. So
No, coffee is life. I agree.
Oh, well, that's
right.
Fair,
Right?
You're already in good company.
I go through way too much coffee.
So April is an incredibly talented artist all around. Great human being.
Awesome.
Super fun. Amazing mom, great buddy of mine. She's also a team member of Ethereal Comics, and we love her to pieces because she's just awesome. And she's currently got all kinds of covers, all kinds of places right now. Holy cow. She just had one going on with Wendy and Wendy's awesome fairy stuff just a little bit ago. That's got like a day or two left on it, doesn't it? Or is that
Siren-S runs until the 31st. So
there you go.
So 3 more days.
Couple more days on that, right?
Yep.
She's got a cover for me right now for BGD issue 2. You can generally find April on all my books.
Nice.
And she's actually working on interiors for me for these neon streets. So we're really excited about that. And I'll let you go ahead and sell yourself now that I've pitched you out there.
Aw, thanks, man. Yeah, no, I've been doing comics for a bit. I accidentally fell into it before I even really started reading comics. Hey, Mouse. Hi, Mini-Me. Why are you here? We are all out of popcorn, but you need to. Mommy's on her podcast right now. I love you. Okay. Oh, your hands are cold. So, and you're fired.
Uh-oh.
Go on.
Uh-oh.
If I have to go off screen and handle you right now, I'm not going to like that. Okay, thanks.
Bye, Mouse.
Love you, Mouse. Okay, so I forgot where I was going with. I accidentally fell into comics before I actually started reading comics. A friend of mine handed me a coloring packet and was like, turn it into this address. Now, mind you, this is like 1999, right? It's like forever ago. And I wound up, as a high schooler, coloring or doing color separations for DC Comics through Heroic Age Studios. So that was pretty amazing in the middle of nowhere, Illinois, like having that be, on my resume or whatever. And And after doing that for like 2 years, and mind you, like they introduced me to my first Comic-Con, they introduced me to the Justice League, who Stan Lee was, blah, 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 like everything. I decided that I wanted to, well, do something else. So I moved from Illinois to Arizona, where, you know, working on a degree from Arizona State University led me into the art department. And I wound up graduating with a fine arts degree. About 2 weeks before I had gotten my degree, they're like, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? I'm like, I don't know. And a friend of mine sat me down at like 3 a.m. was like, we're in the Hyatt, or no, the Marriott, and was like, you already read comics. You already know what it's like in this industry. Why don't you just do comics? And I'm like, can I do that? I don't know. Yeah, okay. And that kind of sat with me for like 2 weeks before I was like, let's do this. Yeah, okay, I'm in. Yeah. So I don't know. I just kind of climbed that ladder on the forefront, and I actually came up with a lot of friends of mine at the same time. Like Mike DeBalfo got in around the same time. Raven Gregory was just getting his ball rolling. Brian Pulido's out there in the same neck of the woods, and he, you know, it just takes a little bit of creative, I don't know, that like the coaling the fire kind of thing, you know, to get everybody coming up together. Bianca Thompson with sketch cards industry, like she's widely known in that industry. She got me into sketch cards. Andy Bond, same thing. I don't know. Shelby Robertson. I literally was sitting next to him and my friends, and then I found out like 3 years later that he's like famous or some shit. I was like, you have a Wikipedia page? Wait, what? Well, I just have accidental luck meeting people and the gumption to show my portfolio. So I've had portfolio reviews with Neil Adams and Vince Hernandez and Brian Pulido and some of the greats in the industry who have been able to monitor my progress over time. And yeah, there's a couple of benchmarks, a couple of bucket list things that I look forward to doing at some point, and I think I'm well on my way to get there. So
April, I'm Leigh, by the way. It's very nice to meet you. Dustin actually does speak very highly of you in the conversations I've had with him. So just to, you know, you might be in with Dustin there, I suspect, mate. So it's thumbs up to you. Good dude. Hey, what wound you to Dustin? Like, how did the two of you, you know, like in the degrees of separation of life and all that, find each other on the comic book spectrum to now where you are, like doing interior art and covers and stuff like that for him and working, and a very valued member from my understanding of Ethereal Comics. So what got you to that point, mate?
Podcasts, you know, just doing things like this. I was doing, I think, a show or two with Phil Walker, and he had recommended me to Dustin for his Greed campaign. And I hadn't met Dustin prior to last weekend in person, so it was just really cool to be like, yeah, sure, you know, I'm working on doing a cover portfolio. It'd be an honor and a privilege to be able to explore this creative facet with your characters. And he happened to like my unique rendition of his characters, and invited me to continue with Babe Score and Dinosaurs, and of course the sequence of Greed when it came out for its second issue. I don't know, he doesn't give me a bunch of limits. He's like, look, you're clear for 18 and over covers, you're clear for safe for work covers, please have fun, here's what's going on, if you want to incorporate that, if you've got questions, let me know. And then I am one of those unique people that can not only pencil And I'm working on getting better with inks. My finesse with finer pens is getting much better. But I can also.
What's your medium? Your A3
Oh my
paper?
God. You're about
look,
you're about to open up a can of worms with this.
Yeah, fire away. Worms everywhere. We're
awesome.
composting, man. We're composting.
It is awesome.
Yeah. There is nothing that I won't draw on, and there is nothing that I won't use to draw. That's what's so funny. I don't know. I do everything from canvases and painting to small sketch cards and watercolor. Like, there is nothing I won't use.
And sparkly things.
Oh yeah, I'm a master when it comes to fucking glitter, man. Just bam, and it's really nice glitter too. It doesn't slough off and get you in trouble with the missus. No, but in all seriousness, I'm one of those unique people that know how to manipulate Photoshop in a way that I can digitally color my own when I have to. But I really, really, really like working with my hands, and I will do Copic markers and colored pencils. I've even got an adapter for an airbrush for my Copics to fit in like an airbrush. I don't know. There's just nothing that I won't use. So it's really
Absolutely
really
anything you can to get the job done, mate, eh?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's the way. And
that's good.
Then I started experimenting with you know Inktober, right?
Oh gosh.
Yep.
During October, everybody will, pen and ink and have fun and whatnot. Well, there got to be a little bit of a taboo thing when somebody copyrighted it. And a friend of mine talked me into doing something called Kinktober, and I was using that as an opportunity to explore anatomy. And because I've basically thrown caution to the wind. It's not like my mouth will ever get me in good with Disney. So I don't feel like I should be limiting myself. And I've been drawing boobs for the last 10 years because sex sells, right? It really does. But at some point I wanted to start incorporating more male anatomy so that I could do, maybe an actual classic superhero or something every once in a while. And so I started doing something called Kinktober. It's definitely a spin on that whole thing, and it has really improved my anatomy. And that's what it winds up being, is once a year I basically do, smutty art and the ability to level up my anatomy skills. So,
Okay, cool.
So you're always trying to learn, get better, mate. That's your goal,
right.
Is to just keep getting better as an artist and stuff.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
I try
By
to
any
toe
means
that line so it's kind of like a fine art avenue, or the ability to transpose it into something that is appealing. So working with high heels, or working with latex or spandex or something to that nature, or the way hair flows. There are just so many ways that it helps improve tons of facets. Even multiple characters interacting, you get that overlapping appeal. I've even incorporated the mermaid challenge with it as well, where I'm able to do overlapping shapes like scales, or trying to bring the backgrounds into focus and tell a story that way. So it's been so fun creating these art books, no matter what the subject matter is.
Oh yeah, she puts out some really cool stuff, man. There's stuff that, my thing is, I'm always drawn to April's work because April has her own style, and it's very unique. And I always talk about different and unique all the time, and that's what draws me to her artwork. When she put out her cover for Greed, you have to excuse me, my nose is really stuffy. I had no clue what I was in for, right? So we got the cover, and I was like, man, that's so dope. And mind you, I don't ever put limitations on any of our cover artists. I'm like, hey, look, do what comes to your mind. And if we need to tweak something here or there, we'll tweak something here or there. And it's not because of the concept that we're tweaking. It's generally a detail that was just missed or just wasn't thought about. You know what I mean? Like something that somebody would look at. And she put Cade and Oz under his bed with a flashlight. And I remember thinking my ass would be under my bed if demons were chasing me with a flashlight. You know what I mean? That's the first place I'd be at 10 years old, you know, if not under the blanket or a pillow fort or something, you know, that I was gonna, you know, so it was a really cool concept. And I was like, well, that's for me. You know what I mean? That's for me all day. That works. So after that, when we decided to put out, well, then we did the Listener 3 and then we did BGD. And that cover for BGD, I think her covers recently have blown her own mind, truthfully. They've come out phenomenal. And just like anything else, the more we do it, the better we get. You know what I mean? We're just growing as we go. And I really think her covers are improving in her own style, which is very, very cool. Because once, like, if you look at Battle for Bustle, Leigh has his own way of doing things, you know, his own style that he puts out. And you can always tell it's his. You know what I mean? Just like several of the individuals that are in this chat right now that are awesome artists, you can tell when it's theirs. You know what I mean? You really can. And so it's phenomenal to see them improve in their own right, you know, improve their own style. And she put out that cover for BGD, and I was blown away. Like, I was absolutely blown away by the cover for BGD. And man, so it was very cool because I wasn't expecting something so phenomenal, because she's one of those artists that can jump from different styles of her own. So like she can go, this is really simple. I love the Greed. The Greed is like a painting. The cover for Greed one was like a beautiful painting, but it was very simple. You knew what you were getting, right? And then you walked over to the BGD cover and you're like, holy shit balls, there's like 15 characters, 90 lights. What is happening? And it was gorgeous. It was so gorgeous, you know, and you were just like, wow, because we have a character, her name is Eve, and her skin tone is literally like an opalescent type of color. So when lights hit it a certain way, the colorist, Dave, April, Gwen, whoever pops off on the cover with her, normally will drop different colors in her scales where the light points hit, you know, the reflection hits on her scales. And I was so blown away because it's just all the lights are hitting her, and it's like this rainbow of color all across her body. I don't think anyone could ever mimic said color in the exact same place. I don't even think April could mimic said color in the same place. But it was.
I saved that color layer.
Don't tell.
No, it's fine. I just changed. I used that abalone clam shell as the inspiration for it.
So pretty, like ridiculous.
It was quite beautiful.
I'm thrilled with it, and so is everybody else. It's still one of the highest sold covers from you. So then we got into Greed. Then we got into Greed 2, and she put out this cover that was so ambitious, because in Greed and the Listener we have the other side, which is literally just moving across like a pencil thin barrier of realms between like the living realm and the spiritual realm. And I bet she's got the original sitting over there somewhere. That's what she's scooting around.
Yeah, this was one of those.
Come on, April.
She's got them. I saw them. They're crazy. She's got physical copies of the books. But it was such a cool thing seeing her concept, because she was like, oh, I'm gonna do, you know, we do naughty and nice variants for our books. And she was like, man, I'm gonna do a living and a dead, or a spiritual. And I was like, well, that's really dope. And then she goes, I'm gonna do blacklight. And I was like, get the fuck out.
Like, oh my gosh, it took like a whole week to get the lighting. Because it's not like I could just throw a filter over it. I had to color 2 different pieces.
That would have been one of those. those things, April, where even though you're trying to describe to Dustin what you want to do, you can't quite describe it until you've actually done it. So then you're stuck in that quandary of, will it come out the way I want it to, or like, and
I
you
was sweating it.
They don't tell me anything. Don't let them fool you, dude. They don't tell me nothing until they've got a good portion done. Then they come in and they're like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty dope." You know what I mean?
It's always great when you're like, hey, there's still limitations, right? You trust me, right?
Yeah.
That's the start of a good conversation right there.
Yeah. I don't ever mess with anybody with them, because like I've got, like, right now, on that note, we brought on Devin Massey, and for you guys that are 80s, 90s comic fans, Devin Massey's been doing Cave Woman forever, with Bud Root and their team. So it was like, he was like, "Hey, am I limited on what I can do?" And I was like, "You're Devin Massey. I'm gonna do what you want to do." You know what I mean? So, and that's generally how I work with everybody, because we've gotten to this point now where we're at 32 team members now. So it's like, I'm just like, cool, look, if I chased every single artist and was like, "Hey, let me cop those lines real quick and see what they look like every week," it would just be so bad. I already am about to pull my hair out half the time anyway. So if I actually like chased people around, I wouldn't even know what to do. But no, it's phenomenal to see her will to get it the way she wants it to be, how it needs to be for the product. It's a really cool process, and because of that, she's got so many cool projects that she works on. You know what I mean? She works with a lot of people that are not only in our tribe and in our circle, but in the industry at large. And it's just phenomenal. Every time you turn around, it's like, "Hey, what do you got going on now?" And I can't speak highly enough about all of our team members, because they're all like that. If you go into our stable of people, it's going to blow your mind, because we're either up and comers, like known up and comers, or AAA ball players right now. So it's like, I'm always promoting somebody's something. I don't even know if it's mine half the time anymore. I'm just like, "Hey, that was pretty cool. Good job." It's just, it's a phenomenal experience. And I hope that I give them back as much as they give me. I really do.
I think it's a lovely thing that you've got so much faith in, like you trust your artists and your fellow creators to come along with you, mate. I want to ask you a question, April. You've obviously been privy to seeing some of Dustin's scripts and that over time, I would assume.
A little bit.
And I love asking this, because I've seen a few of his scripts too, but I've never drawn to them. In my mind, I'm reading them and I can visually see what's happening. But when you put the paper down and stuff like that, how do you find them as a creative person when Dustin hands you a script? Like, do you look at it and you just see exactly what he's telling you and it fits your bill, or do you does he let you change a few things, or text him to say, like, "Man, I might change this angle"? I mean, like, what's the story there? Is he a whip cracking bugger that, "You cannot do that, snap, snap"? What's the dynamic there, mate? I'd love to know.
I haven't actually felt him having to crack the whip for any reason yet. The most of the items that I've had to produce for Ethereal Comics is cover art, and there's a wide range, very little direction that needs to be given. But I am currently working on an anthology, but unfortunately, Dustin wasn't the author for that particular story, and so I haven't felt the whoosh part yet.
Well, just remember, next time you're on here, or when you think about it, flick us an email and let us know.
Right.
No, the anthology she's working on right now is, what I did was, I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to give back in a different way. anybody's been with me since the beginning, or we've had fans that are paying attention since the beginning, when it came to the listener, there was a point where I did an art book for Gabby, and she didn't even know it was going to be an art book for Gabby, basically. And I thought it was a lot of fun, and we only did like 20 copies of it. We printed them for her, and it was a great time. So I decided that I would take all these writers and artists that we were working with on things that may or may not be interested in doing an anthology. So what I did was I went and I wrote a beginning, a middle, and end for 6 different short stories. And then I gave it to up-and-coming writers that I knew in the industry. And I was like, hey, fill in the blanks, run with the story as you will, but here's the main points, and each of them has a different artist attached to it. So it's a really interesting concept to me that I can give you a project.
That's a cool concept, man.
Right. It's a lot of fun. So so what I did was I gave Chuck, like I said, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then in turn, he wrote it and sent it to April after he sent it to me. And I was thrilled with it because the cool thing about this, guys, is there are certain characters that you will have seen, certain characters you may not have seen, certain characters you will see later. It's a very interesting concept to me to increase the size and scope of the world of BGD, outside of what you expect to see. But you're going to get from me, you know what I mean? Because the way I write and the way that I put my panels together and stuff like that, what you're going to receive, generally speaking. So when you come in and you bring in another writer, just a la DC or Marvel Comics, bringing in somebody else to write Spider-Man, for a month or 2 months or whatever, it's an interesting thing because now you get to see their own mix of salt and pepper into the story that you're getting. And I think it's a powerful thing because I'm very grateful. So to be able to give back and to bring in and let people have their free reign, it's very integral to me as a publisher, as a creator. I get so much joy out of seeing people work with my creations. It's like if you give somebody an action figure, right? You create an action figure. Then, and I'll say for the past 25 years probably, people have been taking amazing photos of action figures in different, scenes and whatnot. And it's been going on for a while now. And it just got better as figures and cameras and stuff started getting better and Photoshop and all that jazz. But it's so cool to see someone take your character you've created and be like, oh, yeah? Well, now they're going to do this motion. And you've never seen them do this one before. And you're just like, oh, I didn't even know they could move like that. How does that even, what? So it's a very cool type of deal. And you'll start seeing more of that because this is my take on an annual. So the next one you'll see is probably going to be a Greed, just like these Neon Streets, both Greed characters and stories from that world, which entails the world of the listener. So you'll get these little nuanced stories, that are compact and complete. At the end of it, they're done, but that doesn't mean to say that you won't see them in the future, which is super exciting to me. Like I'm absolutely in love with it. And I think April is doing a smashing job, so far, the page that I've seen. It looks really, really good. And you've also got JT Malloy that's on that, guys, for fans of his. He's a top-notch dude. So he's working on that. Bladen Hunter, who does all the interiors for BGD and for If It Hops, will also be doing a short story in there. So there's all kinds of cool people involved. George Medina's involved. There's so many cool folks. Like I just can't even, oh my gosh. Ed Garcia's got a story in there. Andreas Graff's working on one, lots of really cool folks. And it's such an experience to watch from the outside, you know what I mean? And go, wow, look, and panels and stuff. Because I didn't mess with any of it. You know what I mean? I'm not putting my fingers anywhere. I'm just like, hey, look. So it's cool to see the panels when they're done. It's cool to see the concepts, the character designs. I peep little ideas in there, but I'm not in there going, hey, look, it should be this color. Or, hey, look, this is how the layout should be. Nothing. No conceptions, nothing. So it's just it's a cool experience, man. Very surreal experience. I imagine you get to see stuff like that all the time, Shane. You know what I mean? When you guys do.
Oh, it's awesome. I've seen it all come together.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever done it. It is like herding cats, but it is a great time. I love all my cats. You know what I mean? I love all my cats.
Man,
they definitely get their friskies when they're done. You know what I mean? So
I was going to say, like, you know, the idea of that sort of stuff, and, you know, like Shane does like leg work and does a lot of behind the scenes things, as you all know, and he certainly gets more contact from people than I do. But when Shane has these ideas, and you're talking, and then they become a reality, you certainly do realize that for people out there that I guess when you do unless you do something, you don't really know the details and the intricacies and the hard labor and work and schematics that go into getting something from the idea to the finished product. And there's a lot of, I guess, waves you've got to learn to swim, like sometimes things can go really smooth, and, and the minute you think, and I mean, you're networking with people, you're trying to collate people, as we can see here, from different timelines, from different things, and some things, I guess, are like an easy song that comes together. Others are, like that song you've worked on in the recording studio for 10 years, that you get out on your 10th album instead of your first. But, people just think, like, oh, yeah, there it is, good stuff, oh, yeah, good shit, when's your next one out? And you sit there and you go like, yeah, okay. So, like, you've sort of got to understand the gravitons of, like everything, man, like even,
But once you get the mechanisms, once you get the factory working, you get the writer working, you get the penciler working, you get the inker working, and they're doing that on a regular basis, it gets a lot easier to be able to produce product and have it be efficiently done. And that quality gets better and better with every issue.
And that comes with the momentum. Yeah, because with the momentum comes improvement, and I think with the momentum brings enthusiasm. Like if you start something, it's great to get an issue 1 out. But then, you might, I've got issue 1 out, I might have a month off, I'll go and chill out somewhere. And then you come back into it, you go, I'm working. And then you're like, oh, I've got a wall. Like, yeah, you've just got to, laying down those tracks, man, or the train's going to come to a stop.
Yeah. Right. No. It used to be, it was cool. It was like that when we were doing an issue every 2.5 months. Now it's an issue every 4 weeks to 6 weeks. So it's, yeah, there is no more of that. There's no more of that month downtime. I swear we went to that show last weekend and I'm in there going, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm away from my computer. Oh my God.
See, I at least had enough foresight to bring some commissions with me. So I was working even though I wasn't like selling.
Yeah, anxiety through the fucking roof.
Well, there was staying up until 4 a.m. to do stuff. So,
yes, whatever.
But, oh my gosh, I tell you what, though, I got home and I just crashed for like a whole day. It was just like, hey, I'm going to go back to bed. Okay, I'm going to go pick up the kids. Okay, I'm going to go back to bed. Yeah, like I slept most
See you next week.
Right? No doubt. But no, I think the most traumatic thing artistically right now is I went a year and a half of doing indie created stuff, and then I had to bounce into something copywritten, and it was just a culture shock. It was literally like a cold shower. It was so hard. It was so hard because they're very particular about costume, about it not looking like any particular actor, even though they're bouncing off of. And it's just oh man. And that took 2 weeks out of a 4-week thing to get into, and then I was free and liberated to go back to doing indie stuff, and I was just I don't want to do that ever again. That I think is the hardest, because you get so used to, hey, I trust you with my character. Oh, hey, it's okay for them to have a little bit of alteration to this thing as long as it looks good. You get used to that freedom. And then when you go to working for the big two, or even, some of the ones that have more notoriety, like Dynamite. I'm a Dynamite sketch card artist. So, Vampirella has to look a certain way. Red Sonja has to look a certain way. Thor has to look a certain way. Otherwise, it just isn't very reminiscent of the character. And so when you bounce into those, you're just like, holy mackerel. And then you can get back to working on things like Greed, or I am actually looking very much forward to, if it hops, Agent Sue is going to be my gal.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you mentioned that. I think it's really funny that I'm going to say that more than 70% of our team has come out of the woodwork and been like, hey, look, we need to know when that book drops because we're ready for covers on that one. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, we may need to start putting those out a little bit more frequently. But it's interesting and it's fun.
Or you could pull something out of Alton's book and just do like one art book and then said comic, so you can double.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea too. I've had a couple cool ideas like that lately. There's certain like nuances that I'm trying to work around right this second, like with the website and stuff. We're about to start doing time-based prints on the website when it gets up, so you guys will be able to pick up prints. So yeah, there'll be a print will only be available for 2 weeks at any given time.
Cool.
And you guys will be able to pick those up, and they're all going to be limited to 25 prints a piece, and they'll only be available for 2 weeks. All kinds of fun stuff like that, because I'm trying to make it so that there's so much more exposure. Let's say that one of our team members isn't on a particular book. I still want to have them be able to put their work out consistently even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a lot of craziness in the pipe right now.
Dude, I would think that what you're talking about there would be, I do Battle for Bustle with Tam, so and I'm with Shane Publishing. But if I was an artist that was working for you, and even though I'd finished a book, and independently, I guess, like as we were saying, every 4 to 6 weeks, and you've got a little bit of a gap period there. And, like you suddenly discovered that, your publisher had, made available a print, like in limited edition to still, push your name out there or keep you in the loop until your next job. I would find that very encouraging, man. I would find that to an extent that, I'm not forgotten, even though it's only 2 weeks, I'm not in the shadows. I'm still here. And, like you're pushing forward your creative unit and team.
Right.
And,
we'll also be, another part of that is we'll also be allowing, enabling, I hate saying allowing, that sounds shitty, enabling them to put their original art on there with the print that's available, and they get to cop everything from the original as well as a percentage of the sales for the print. So
yeah,
I've got some cool ideas that we've got going on right now, because there's so much, as much as we do now, I'm on the path to double it by August. So if I can keep my nose clean and keep doing what I'm doing, instead of seeing a book every 6 weeks, you guys will see a book every 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
That's my short-term goal for this year. So we'll see how that pans out. But I think it'll do well. I'm very excited. If anything, if the current run of BGD right now is an indication, we are well on that path. I think we're only like $300 away from 8,000 on BGD2 right now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So if we hit that 8,000, we'll actually be adding an additional 6 full color story pages to the book.
Nice.
With no extra downtime, so you guys are still going to get the books at the same amount of time you would have gotten it previously. So,
yeah,
really,
it's a good book, mate. It's
man,
a good comic book.
Yes, I appreciate it. Well, the listener's coming up, and I know that's your favorite, so that's coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, I do like the listener.
Yes, sir.
I think I'm dabbling a little bit there for you as well.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think that we're as a team. I think we're going in such a pace that it's good for everybody, because we're getting to showcase people in a way that is fruitful to everyone involved. One cool thing that we've got coming up, and we haven't really discussed openly and loudly, which we're going to start talking about right this second, because I wanted April to hear about it live just to see what her reaction would be to it, is that we're so you guys are familiar with the Chinese zodiac, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the year of this, the year of that.
Mhm.
So starting with this issue of Greed coming up, we're going to start what we're calling the year of the Blue Flame. And that'll run all the way through March of next year. And every book that drops, every one of our IPs, each IP, every issue that drops will have a exclusive Year of the Blue Flame cover for that book. And we're only going to release 25 of each of those covers. And then at the end of the year, not the fiscal year, but the calendar year that we're doing, we'll have packets coming out with all 12, well, should be about 12, all 12 issues that come out with those variants for Year of Blue Flame. And each of them will highlight a certain 3 or 4 artists a year. And we'll only be offering the Zodiac covers to those artists for that year. So pretty
Interesting.
That does sound
Firing,
really
man.
cool.
Unbelievable.
Well, I bring it up for April and live because we're offering her and 2 other people the covers this year. So they'll get the
Boom, boom, exclusive CCCX. See, April, look what happens to you when you come on this show. Good things happen, man. Good things.
See, he puts these beautiful little carrots right in front of me, knowing I got like 12 pages to do, and it takes me for fucking ever to get anything. Like, can I show? Can I show the beautiful
Show.
page today?
By all means, show them.
Like, it took me 3 days to do this, but like, this is.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, they're coming out looking awesome. They look super good.
I am so excited. I've been a little out of practice, and I am so excited to be able to be doing sequential lines. Oh, by the way, my poor little ruler has like warped and turned yellow. I didn't realize that the acrylic ones turned yellow. But yeah, this poor bad boy is like feeling its age. And so I'm like, oh God. I wind up having to like pull it into Photoshop to get the page breakers so that they're actually straight. Because for some odd reason I get really OCD about that. But yeah, like I was just really excited about like this like oval shaped panel here and how it's bridging, the bottom and top, and how this is going to be separated. And it's just like, man, if I had a crooked line, it would just eat away at me for like weeks until I got it fixed.
Right.
So, yeah. Like
don't look at my artwork, mate.
No.
You
It's
might
fine.
sleep for a week with crooked lines. You might be like,
No, I love buying original art, and it's so great to be able to like look back and go, oh, this is how it was done. So I've got like original pages from like Sabrina the Teenage Witch where they've got like the actual word bubbles. And it's just, oh my gosh. And you could tell they go back through with like whiteout and do all these fixes. But it's just one of those things. I don't know if it's art school or what it is, but it just one of those things where you're like, if you can get it perfect, like pulling it into Photoshop, let's just call it what it is, and we'll just drag that line and move on. Just drag that line and move on. And then whenever I go to put it into my album, I can just and it's not gonna eat away at me, because then I have to go through and pull it out, and then I have to put it back in. No.
So speaking of this pulling motion she's doing, right? And her album. So we're sitting in the show, and she's like, I need some paper. Do you have any paper? And I'm like, oh, I don't have any paper. So she reaches into what I think is a full album of original art, right? I think it's a full album of original art. And she just whoops out a piece and just starts tearing it up in front of me. And I'm just like, what is happening right now?
The look on his face is priceless.
Like, don't do this.
Oh, we've lost Leigh.
Because it was a print off.
Yeah, see?
It was a print
Oh,
off.
okay.
And I was using it for scrap paper.
I was literally like, oh my God, don't do that. That's awesome.
So for Wendy Steen Shainer's Naughty Fairy Super Assassins book, she had a artist by the name of John Rhodes draw and ink up a really beautiful piece. And then they asked me to be the colorist. Now, I prefer to do traditional media, even though I know how to do digital. And so I couldn't figure out what type
Lee'd be happy to hear that.
Yeah. I didn't know like what type of color scheme I wanted to do. So I did like a spring theme with like pinks and greens. And then I did a fall with like, you know, the deep reds, oranges, and yellows. And I was like, which one do you like? She's like, ooh, I like them both. I'm like, okay. So then I just scan it and do some, you know, effects to kind of just treat the paper for a little bit, you know, because every once in a while I get like paper blemishes or the color doesn't scan quite seamlessly. Anyway, so it became quite a thing, and they're like, ooh, now everybody's asking for a winter and summer season. I was like, really? Okay. I wasn't trying to dip too far into people's wallets. I don't know. It seems so weird to do that, but when I approach something, I'm not looking to just change a color. I literally will reimagine what I'm doing. So for summer, I did like a nighttime scene. It's so cliche to do just your regular cerulean blue or sky blue and just red, white, and blue stuff. And though I tried to incorporate a little bit of that, I had it be like dark time or nighttime with like fireworks exploding and really deep reds and really deep blues, and tried to make it different, like radically different. And then when I did my wintertime theme, I was using like blue violets and pink hues, and like I was pulling from like a Home Depot or a Lowe's catalog effects. So it wasn't just regular ice cold blues, because then it winds up looking too much like Elsa from Frozen. Who wants any of that mumbo jumbo? Like, no. So yeah, exactly. So I wound up doing the 4th of July one completely digitally, and that left me with that one piece of paper that I didn't know what to do with. And that's what I tore up in front of you. Because my printer
literally almost wept. Like
my printer can print on large pieces of paper, and so I'm so sorry. It was priceless to watch you just kind of like really quiet.
I've been like, so when I worked at the Frist, we would restore pieces of art and stuff. And I'll never forget going downstairs and watching an intern knock over something onto something. And it's just like, it was awful. I'll say that much. I'm going to tell you, it was more than 400 years old, this piece of art that was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. Ooh. I mean, it's super fixable because our teams were awesome. You know what I mean? But whatever, it was. But
so
that young gentleman did not come back to finish his internship. We'll say that much. But it felt like that. I was literally there again watching this piece of art just get destroyed, and I didn't even know what to think. And you can't even like defend it either. You're like, that's her piece of paper, so go tear it up. I can't even say nothing about it. Like you feel it in your groin, like you just been kicked real hard. You're like, oh, how do I even respond to that? Hey, look, how are you today? Just got kicked in the cock. You know, I don't know how to feel about that. You know, but no, it was
2022. Blick.
Yeah, no, it was not great. So, but it was cool to see her like get into the zone because. Yeah. You know, she was like, I'm going to doodle this and it's going to be great. And I was like, okay, doodle away, you know?
It was way, way, way productive. I had been just fraught with what I was going to do for the main character for my piece, and I finally came up with a doodle or a design that like just got the creative juices flowing. Like it was not too bad on the fly, you know? And so and that's just the speed hump that I needed to do to get over whatever artist block that I was having. It's hard. It's, you know, I'm fine with getting free reign to do whatever. Like here's an idea, run with it. But whenever you're building characters from scratch, it's like, whew, you know, that's a lot of trust, I think. And it was very awesome, but I never really considered myself that much of a character designer, or I don't know. I call it big brain. I just don't have the big brain. So I can take something that's been developed and I can put it into sequentials, or I can take that idea and I can turn it into a cover. But to do it from the ground floor, it's like, whew, okay, yeah. I've been building myself for this moment, and it feels like a real big epic Dragon Ball Z thing where you're like, whew, thank God, it's only the first season.
Yeah, you build up like 9 episodes, then you get like 30 minutes of work, and you're like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
All you need is right there.
It's that first hour once Starbucks hits my brain that I'm like the most productive. We were right there when I ripped up that paper. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And then the geometry question came in. It was just like, okay, it's time to hit the bar. Yeah.
Poor geometry questions.
Oh,
but you know, there's a concept when you work with so many people that, like, I've had 150 employees before. And the thing about having that many is you're not personal with those people. You know, you like to be as much as you can. But when you have 150 people that work for you, you're literally, hey, look, it's everybody here. Is everybody doing their job? Is this moving? Is that moving? The cool thing about this is I can involve myself with each of the individuals we work with in a way that is personal. You know, it's not an impersonal thing. You can laugh, you can joke, you can send a message and ask how somebody's family's doing. It's all that. It's very relevant to this business, I think, because you can look all around, and all these companies, cool, look, they invite us to their meetings, or they invite us to our dinners or whatever else. But it's a very impersonal environment. You're a contractor. Even myself, I'm writing a film for a young director right now, and it's like you're a contractor all day long. And I've never wanted anyone to feel that way. I always wanted people to realize they're part of a team and they have a home and a place that they can come in and work, and they can work at their pace, and they can be happy with what they're putting out, you know. And it's a very telling thing in this industry when people come up and they're like, man, look, we're not used to that. And you're like, oh, well, I'm sorry. That to me should be the fucking norm. You know what I mean? So that's what we're trying desperately to create, is a standard, you know, a place that is right for everybody, you know. And it's not a fit for everybody, but we don't ever go, hey, look, it's not for you. You know what I mean? They normally decide it's not for them, you know. It's like seasons. Comics is great, man. Absolutely. It's very cool to see the reflection of the things that I do across the world. You know what I mean? It's very cool to see Shane do what Shane's doing, and Leigh doing what he's doing. You know what I mean? It's a very it's a cool thing, because as awesome as our team is, and as large as it is for an indie team, we have probably one of the biggest teams in the indie world right now, at least that I'm aware of. But the cool thing about it is everybody's happy. You know what I mean? There's no bullshit. There's no drama. Everybody gets along, you know.
The one thing that what I found most beneficial about Hero Gauge Studios back when I was first starting was the fact that it was a studio, and that you had your more experienced team that was on site, along with the greenhorns like myself that were just starting and that we needed a little bit more hand-holding. The idea that we now have our tribe all over the world and different time zones in different countries, and that is amazing. I think what I see evolving with Ethereal is that they're developing this online community, that they're developing this studio atmosphere, even though I don't think it's fully formed quite yet. I see it, and I had mentioned at some point it would be really cool to pick like a day of the week or something and just like have an open house where everybody can come and shoot the shit and draw or write or bounce ideas off of one another in a safe space and an online
love
room.
that so much. I love
think
it.
that would be so great just to see how everybody works, what works for them. I know I myself am redesigning how I do my backdrops, but then again, there's other people who have it down to the science that might have like better insight. And so I could just verbally ask, hey, what do you
cool
do?
is that?
How do you show to show? Because
April, I love that. I love
Right.
the idea of like with the community that Shane's created with ComX is like, you know, for me, I live in, look, it's not a small town. It's 250,000 people, but it's in far north Queensland. So the closest capital city for me is about 1,400 kilometres away, which I guess would probably be maybe about 1,000 miles roughly. So, you know, it's not easy to get to. So you don't get to conventions. It's difficult in a smaller town to meet people that are like-minded. I'm in a very sporty town, an army garrison town. So arts aren't exactly, you know, there's people trying, but that, you know, that's not, I guess, a top echelon of, you know, like what the city is built on. And then with the community coming through, I guess I'd just been drawing comic books for such a long time that there were questions that I had. There were, you know, wonders. Oh, do I get better at this? Do I get better at that? But then through meeting people and, you know, like collaborating recently on a couple of things, you know, that are up and coming, you do get to talk to those people. You do realize that this isn't a mistake what you were doing, but there's an easier way of doing it. And the weird part is they turn around to you and go, hang on a minute, I know you like the way I'm doing it, but I really like the way you were doing it. And then, you know, it's a real, you just sort of, and it's like, then you just, and that's where I found myself as someone that's wanting to improve my artwork is like, I'm getting so overwhelmed with all of these, like, whoa, man, these ideas, I could use that idea there. I could use that idea there. Do I want to do, you know, and it's really cool to, you know,
Totally.
have improvement, you know, like because of people just, you know, not, you know, I mean, the whole competitive thing. I mean, Dustin and I have spoken about it before, like, you know, with artists, how he's better than he is or she's better than she is and all that. I mean, I don't think there's a place for that.
For everybody. There's a
Absolutely.
place for everybody
exactly
in
what
this
you're saying.
industry.
Absolutely.
And there's going to
Absolutely.
be some styles I don't want to reconstruct. That like for my friend Armand, he does a lot of stuff that's like Nickelodeon. He's done, you know, some work for Nickelodeon.
Oh, yeah,
and it's
cool.
just like, man, that's an art style that I love. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to mimic it. Manga, for instance, love the art style. I just don't want to mimic it. Unless it's Sailor Moon or Ghost in the Shell. Then I'm in. Absolutely. But
You know,
there's
we
other
just
people
we brought Bladen on officially a couple weeks ago as art director. So one thing that people are doing now and they're getting in the habit of doing is sending things to him, you know, and he goes over it and stuff like that because that's what he does. That's his motif, you know what I mean? And for him to be able to look at things and go, hey, look, let's talk about this or do this, da-da-da-da. It's a very cool thing for me because I don't catch the things that they do. You know what I mean? I really don't. Like, if I have that mentality of, and it's awful and it's not something people should admit, but I'm like, oh, it's pretty. That's cool. That's dope. Right. I like that a lot. You guys brought my shit to life, but I see the bigger picture of it. I don't see the minute details that their eyes see, you know, these things that they look for, you know. And the cool thing about having someone go over something that is an inker as well as a line artist is they're literally looking at the minute details of each of these images and going, okay, well, that works. this makes sense, that fits, you know, and it's a much more trained eye than myself. So I'm really excited to have that for the team. I'm excited to have that they can talk to him or each other, you know, but it's new. It's still very new. So people are going, hey, look, do I email him or do I email you? And I'm like, it really doesn't matter. Just try to get in the habit, you know, of sending it to him so he can see it, because two pairs of eyes, 3 pairs of eyes is better than 1 pair of eyes, you know, so we can see these things we're working on. And not to mention that he does a lot of the character designs for the characters that we have. So he's going to know just as well as I would what so-and-so would be saying or acting or facial expressions in the situations, you know. So it's super humbling though to see this incredible group of people work together in such a fashion where I told April the other day, I literally have a workbook that if anything ever happened to me, everybody could still do this job and it would still run even if I couldn't touch it for whatever amount of time. You know what I mean? It's a very cool thing to know that all of these people revolve around each other and could all get along if you put them in a room. That's one of the coolest things about it. They could all, like April talking about this chat room thing. I love the concept because all these people are good people. You know, I didn't just randomly go, yeah, I want that guy. Over here, I'm going to go, yeah, that guy too. He's got some good lines, that guy right there. I'm going to get him too. No, it's people that I feel like can change the face of this industry, you know, and people that I think can build and continue to do better and build themselves, you know. And if our books are growing and they're growing, everybody wins, you know, and that's the goal, man. Because right now there's 37 issues of The Listener written and edited. There's 20 issues agreed, written and edited. There's 9 issues of BGD written and edited. You know what I mean? There's 4 issues of If It Hops written and edited. You know, there's all these things can be done. And the cool thing about it is, like I said, we're more than the sum of our parts, because I could literally go, hey, look, I'm sick and I'm gonna be out for a month. I'm gonna be out for 2 months, but the books still have to be made. I could easily email any member of our team this document, a portion of it, you know, will tell you exactly who to call for this, who to call for that, how much this is, how much that is, you know what I mean? All this stuff is all broken down to how it needed to be done. And if you needed to do it for 5-6 issues, it wouldn't even be an issue to do it for 5-6 issues. You could run it for a year without having to ask a question, you know. And I think it's so integral to have these things because this industry is so big and it's so powerful that we have to continue growing and we have to continue bettering ourselves, because we're going to get left behind if we don't, you know. And if I'm going to play with the big boys, I have to have all my team has to be the best equipment, wearing the best looking jerseys. You know, they have to be ready to play. And nobody wants to play if coach sucks. You know, so I mean,
I think we're in a culture of change. I think the future right now, or at least in the short game, depending on how it plays out, I think the future right now is in indie comics.
Absolutely.
I think that we are turning the comic industry on its ear with both the art, the stories, the community that we're building. It's not a bunch of toxic people. There's a lot of good that's coming out of it. And I hope that the naysayers, the people that aren't fulfilling their Kickstarters, I hope that those get weeded out so that there's plenty of room for those of us that have 100% fulfillment, those that are following up and sending messages to our backers on fulfillment and getting the backer surveys filled out, that we're getting those, we're getting the work done because we've got integrity and we've got vision and we know that this is what we're doing for the long haul. So
absolutely full-time jobs for us guys. It's not, you know, it's not
so.
a part-time gig. So we depend on, we not only depend, you guys depend on us to get you the product and to have integrity. We also depend on you just as much, to support us and to know that, you're there.
Yep.
Fans are there, because it's a very, like right now, I'm super bummed out that we're not shipping to Australia right now. Like I'm so bummed out. It's not even funny, because what people don't know is one of my largest fan bases is Australia. I sell more books to Australia than I almost sell in the United States. And I can't justify charging you guys $75 to ship one book. I just can't do it. No one's going to do it.
No,
they can't afford
it's
that.
crazy, the shipping.
It's just, and it was bad before. It's worse now, so as soon as we figure it out, we'll start shipping to you guys again. But until then, we do the digital books for you guys almost specifically. A lot of people like digital. If this hadn't happened, I wouldn't push digital so hard. It's something that I was literally like, oh, look, we're pushing it. Because I had books that I didn't have digital copies of. And everybody was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm making PDFs. What are you making PDFs for? Well, now every single book in our library is able to be is a PDF and available right now, because we just.
Well, Dustin, where for the people in Australia or anywhere that are watching and interested in your IPs, mate, where can they go to these digital copies, mate?
So right now we're in the middle of a rebrand, since I just got Ethereal Comics about a month ago, and I just got all the legalities taken care of in December and stuff. So you can, I currently don't have a website, but if you go to the Kickstarter right now, every book in our library digitally is available as a standalone specifically for that. You don't have to pick up any BGT or if it hops, but you can pick up the digitals right there on that Kickstarter page. So
cool.
I'm very thankful that was something that, my wife was insistent on as well. She was like, hey, look, make sure that the digitals are out there, because we realize that people are all over the world and they may not have the opportunity to have physical books in their hands or anything like that. And it's important, man. We try to get our books as far as we can out to the world, especially when they're as good looking as some of these covers. Holy cow, guys. I mean, I joke about the covers and our teams and stuff, but we're very grateful. We love everybody in our team. So it's very important that we advertise for them and we advocate for them as well, and people see how stunning these pieces are and how much work that people put into them, how much work they put into these pages. I'll tell you this, when we pivoted to put out BGD 2 this past month, Bladen was literally breaking his back, putting out page after page after page after page. So I couldn't be more grateful for our team and the work they do, the support of my family, the support of the books, the projects, because and you guys as well. I'm eternally grateful for you guys, your friendships, and how you feel about our product. Yeah, man, you guys are gonna make me sappy. But yeah, no, I'm very grateful. Very grateful. I've missed these two fuckers, so I'm very excited about the show again. I'm excited to bring more team members on. I'm excited to see the awesome folks you guys bring on. But
I'll tell you what, mate. I've got a few crackers lined up.
You do. I know you do.
Yeah, I'm very keen to unveil some of those.
I know.
We'll keep people in suspense.
Oh, yeah. Well, another fun thing that we're doing is I'm going to ask April for her help on starting here shortly, is when we do shows, where we'll be doing live shows through ComX and stuff, so you guys can see the live shows and what it's like to go to shows in the U.S. and see what's going on.
Oh, cool.
We're very happy about that. We've got a show coming up in April. That's what Suncoast is in April.
Suncoast.
I've got Nashville Comic Con. I think that's the same month as Vegas, but it's like the 2 weeks before Vegas. So and that's like 30 minutes from my house. So I'm gonna do that one.
All right.
And then we've got Vegas. I'm excited for Vegas. I hope that we can stream at Vegas. I don't know that we're going to be able to stream, but I hope that we
Jeff
can.
Wilson will be there, so if you don't, he absolutely will.
I'm sure he'll be streaming. I have no doubt about that. Yeah,
he was streaming Boston. And
I'm
he is
sure.
a marketing guru. I need to
He's
take
absolute
notes.
genius. Absolute
Yeah.
genius. Speaking of Steph Wilson, he's actually doing the only book he hasn't done covers for is The Listener, but he's about to do it's already done. I've seen it and it's gorgeous. But he's doing our first connecting covers for Greed, so that'll be really cool.
Okay, cool.
I've not ever done a connecting cover, so I'm pretty stoked about that.
Is that between issues or is that
it's a variant cover? So you've got book. It's all issue 3, so it's
it's all issue 3. Yep. Okay.
Cover C and cover D, they fit together.
That's cool.
And it's just neat looking. Like we did a cool one for this one, which was it's not a traditional wraparound cover. It's a naughty and nice wraparound cover, I guess you would call it, because the front is super nice, and then you flip it to the back and it's super naughty. So love that cover, a lot of fun. But we always try to do different, out of the box type of stuff. Like the Blacklight cover I wasn't expecting from April, and it's probably everybody's favorite cover from her so far, outside of the BGD cover, because that's just, I don't know, people are absolutely in love with it. Me too. I'm in love with that one. That one's my favorite. So, but there's all kinds of stuff that we do that's different, like down to, you guys have got copies of my books down to what we make the book out of, you know what I mean? So we try to make everything is, what do they say on that? My daughter watches this show. It's called My Hero Academia. She's absolutely addicted to it. But they're always like, it's plus ultra. You know what I mean? It's going past that 100%. It's plus ultra. So
plus ultra. Nice.
Everything we try to put out is a little bit of plus ultra. So I appreciate that. I appreciate people getting to see the differences in what the book, because in my opinion, the book sale may start at what you think the cover looks like. The cover's pretty and stuff, and the book sale may start there, but it goes all the way through you picking the book up, having the book in your hand, what it's made out of, what it feels like. You could put our books up on a table and they would stand up. You know what I mean? As long as they weren't in a bag, they would stand up, because our books are cardstock all the way through. So really stoked about that. Yes, sir. Do you guys have anything else for April?
No, mate. I'm very happy with having met April. I'm sure Shane has as well. And April's covered all the bases with Dustin there. So
thank you so much for having me. In case anybody's interested to see more of my work, you're welcome to look over on Instagram or on Facebook on Reyna Art, Reyna Art, A-R-T. I've got a fan page on both sites, or if you like my Dank Dark memes, you're also April Reyna, for all the other BS that I throw out there. And to
make sure you guys get
2022.
Order your squeeze erasers. Get the squeeze erasers.
Yes.
We
we didn't meet that stretch goal this last time, but I think that's just going to have to be my low-hanging fruit for my next Kickstarter, because it's got to come to fruition. It's just, oh my gosh, it's
I'm
so
feeling
funny.
like I felt like I didn't get the whole April experience without the squeeze erasers at the show. So
yeah, it's silly, but this is how I censor stuff. And if it's really, really naughty, then we have to bust out the actual. If nothing else, it's a conversation starter.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
But yeah, hit me up on Instagram. Find me on Facebook, Reyna Art. I've got a lot of my my pieces in individual folders on my fan site. I've got a website, Reyna Art, but you can't buy anything off of it. I haven't linked it to PayPal yet. So it's one of the very many things that is upcoming. I just got possession of my website back, but now I need to find time to, figure it how to do it. I don't know. That might be a resolution for 2023. I don't even know. Anyway, I'm going to bounce and go put the kids to sleep. Thank you guys so much for
Sure.
having me.
Thank you,
Dustin, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, of course.
Hope everybody's doing well out there. And if you
And I
have any
hope you get
questions,
inundated by people going to your sites, mate, and checking out your artwork. And if not, you can get them through Ethereal Comics when they pop up,
Absolutely.
you know. And
Yep.
I'm sure Dustin will keep us all informed, mate. So good on you.
fantastic. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful evening or day.
You too, April.
Thank
Bye.
you. Yeah.
That was a
There
lot
you
of
go.
fun.
It was. It was. That was a good start. Good start to 2022. It's lovely to see you two again in this capacity as well. I've missed the CCCX show.
Right? I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. Same.
Beautiful gents like yourselves and getting to hang out and, the land of bearddom and whatnot.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. I'm King Beard here.
That's
right. Like,
that's right. I don't think I've ever got it further than like my collarbone. I've tried, and it just doesn't ever seem to want to get any further than that. So,
oh, dude, I tell you, there's some days where I wish it wasn't there, but I'm getting to the point now where I can almost tie it back behind my head. So I'll create some crazy, new hairstyle. Thousands of people doing the Leigh hairstyle.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd do the shit out of that thing. I can't get it that long, so I'm just gonna fucking
Yeah. I'm constantly in a breeze, even if there's nothing there. Man, look at that dude. He's like in a tornado.
You gotta walk around with some real short shorts on. You're just like
Absolutely. So, I guess we probably should think about winding up. But look, I thank you so much for you, Dustin and Shane, and everyone that's stuck with us and watched it. Thank you for the ComX community out there. Thank you for everyone that loves creativity and comic books. Thank you for SK and April-Reyna for being our guests today. We've got more people next week, which we'll name during the week. And back at the same time at 10 a.m. next Saturday. And what time is it for you over there, Dustin? 7-ish?
It's gonna be 6-ish for me.
6-ish.
It would have been 7-ish. It's gonna be 6-ish for me.
All right. And have just one last thing. We got any queries or anyone had a plug at any of those X-Men figures they want me to do, or do I just get to come out of the bat and pick my X-Men figure?
Well, today we got Colossus and Gateway were the only ones that came up. But that's just today. Well, we've got a few days.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Colossus,
I know who. Yeah.
I like that Age of X cycle or Colossus. I always thought it was cool, like the red bandana he had on.
Indeed.
Yeah. But the cool thing about X-Men is and talking about X-Men and what kind of styles of the X-Men, you've got the entire Exiles run too, and a lot of people forget about the Exiles. Because you had so many characters from so many different universes that were in that run of books. Like there were numerous different Wolverines, numerous different Spider-Mans, holy cow, some really, really great characters. Also one of those series that was just, way ahead of its time. In my opinion, the writing itself may not have been great, but the concept was really, really cool. So,
yeah. All right. What do you say we call it a day and an evening and let the viewers and stuff get back to their lives other than watching the three of us have a yarn?
Yes.
And, Well, again, thank you. Thank you to these two gentlemen. Thank you to everyone watching. Thank you to the communities everywhere. And, thumbs up for creativity and don't let anyone tell you can't do it. And if they do, then, close the door on them. And only forward. Keep going.
That's the way.
Be good.
See you all.